शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। तू स्वर की देवी, ये संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। तू स्वर की देवी, ये संगीत तुझसे, हर शब्द तेरा है, हर गीत तुझसे। हम हैं अकेले, हम हैं अधूरे, तेरी शरण में हमें प्यार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ। मुनियों ने समझी, गुनियों ने जानी, वेदों की भाषा, पुराणों की वाणी। मुनियों ने समझी, गुनियों ने जानी, वेदों की भाषा, पुराणों की वाणी। हम भी तो समझे, हम भी तो जाने, विद्या का हमको अधिकार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, हे शारदे माँ, अज्ञानता से हमें तार दे माँ।
Academic activities throughout the year to project their academic and R&D strength. Let me give you a glimpse of that. To start with, the School of Humanities and Social Sciences developed and introduced a unique foundation program for undergraduate students. The course introduces students to different areas of humanities and social sciences, as well as interdisciplinary areas like study of cognition, environment, aesthetics, etc. The course was complemented by various workshops conducted by experts and eminent scholars. The newly built program received enthusiastic participation from our students. The School of Mathematics and Computer Science organized an artificial intelligence workshop for multiple audiences that was particularly successful among school children. They also organized a faculty development program on ARM architecture and system-on-chip design, which attracted quite a large number of faculties from different parts of our country. The School of Mechanical Sciences organized several industrial visits to local industries with specific purposes. The visit to Kineco Common Composites India Private Limited culminated in an MOU for future collaborations, while the visit to Crumpton Grips Limited exposed the first-year undergraduate students to a real-world industrial scenario. The School of Electrical Sciences organized a 3-day national workshop covering power electronics, microgrid systems, advanced signal processing, 5G communications, and circuit and systems for emerging submicron technology. Our faculty members in the School of Physical Sciences organized this year's ACRB School on Advanced Materials at Nano and Atomic Scale. I thank Professor Bahadur and Dr. Santosh Kumar for taking the initiative. The Goa Physics Meet was held on 25th January 2020 and it was a successful event with 90 participants made up of faculties and students from all across Goa. The School of Chemical and Material Sciences organized SMST 2020, an international conference on smart materials for sustainable technologies. This conference was held in collaboration with IIT BHU, IIT Delhi, SINP Kolkata, and the Society of Interdisciplinary Research in Materials and Biology. This was, in fact, our first international conference, whose central theme was focused on the fundamentals and applications of materials in the areas of healthcare and energy. I thank Dr. Shiva Iyer and his colleagues for successfully conducting the event. Sponsored research is a hallmark of any institution of higher learning. I am happy to say that the overall R&D activities during 2019-2020 look quite promising. With the availability of extra laboratory space in the GC campus where we are there, we started looking for more research projects. As a result, 11 extramural research projects and 3 consultancy projects were granted. The major projects were secured by Dr. Shashidhar, Dr. Sharat Sinha, Dr. Rishikesh Narayan, Dr. Raja Mitra, Dr. Aniruddha Ambekar, Dr. Ashish Vateja, Dr. Vidyadhar Subudhi, and Dr. Sachin Kore. Our faculty members also published more than 100 SCI journal papers and 5 patents. IIT Goa signed 11 MOUs in the last academic year. A team of faculty members visited France as part of the Goa Atlantic cooperation in the areas of marine science and technology. During their visit, 8 memoranda of understanding for research cooperation were signed. In the same area, we also signed another MOU with INSC Technology and Science Portugal. The MOU was exchanged during the state visit of the President of Portugal to India. In data science, artificial intelligence and machine learning area, we signed MOUs with 2 US-based firms, Express Analytics and Make Computing. An MOU was also signed with CDAC to cooperate in the area of HPC, reconfigurable computing and embedded systems. During the last academic year, our faculty have brought laurels to our institute. Professor Vidyadhar Subudhi was elected as a Fellow of Indian National Academy of Engineering. Dr. Sharat Sinha and Professor Vidyadhar Subudhi were appointed as Editor-in-Chief of IEEE Potentials and Associate Editor of the IEEE Access, respectively. Dr. Sandeep Haldar of Mechanical Engineering Department received the Ramanujan Fellowship. Dr. Arindam Das and Dr. Shakti Prasad backed the Defense India Startup Challenge launched under ITEX initiative of Government of India. I received the Distinguished Alumnus Award from NIT Rourkela. Our BTech batch of 2016 is graduating this year. A total of 82 BTech students will graduate with degrees in computer science, electrical and mechanical engineering disciplines. Our students are full of potential and we truly believe that they are our future. Students participated in several academic and non-academic activities, and I would like to mention a few names those who brought laurels to our institute. Janme J. Rao, Priyanka Arora, Devyani Maladkar, Himanshu Advait, Agashe, Anushka Vatsha, Devang Jain, and Rahul Kashyap. I would like to congratulate all of them for their participation in different events and both cultural and sports events and bagging so many awards and honors. The year ended with a pandemic situation arising out of the sudden outbreak of coronavirus disease. We were cruising at a great pace until COVID-19 hit us. Our faculty members stepped out in extraordinary ways to meet urgent and emergent needs. We encourage faculty members to experiment, adapt, and adjust so that we are able to make continuous progress during our next semester, which will be online. Apart from teaching, we contributed to the PM Care Fund and CF's COVID Fund. I take this opportunity to thank all my faculty members for their contributions and make a special mention of three faculty members, Dr. Nandakumar, Dr. Srinath Balakrishnan, and Dr. Ravi Mittal for their generous contributions. There is also good news. IIT Goa will soon relocate to a new campus, which will be built in phases in the Satari Tahsil of North Goa district. I thank each and every member of our faculty and staff for their support and commitment and maintaining excellence in teaching and research. I'm quite excited about the future of our institute. Let's look forward to the coming year and hope with hope and optimism. Jai Hind.
So thank you, Professor. Thank you, Professor Mishra, for your address and for describing the achievements of IIT Goa's faculty, staff, students over the last 1 year and whatever else IIT Goa has accomplished. We will take now. I would like to introduce the chief guest for today. The chief guest for today is Professor Timothy Gonsalves. He is the founding director of IIT Mandi. So Professor Gonsalves received BTech in Electronics from IIT Madras and MS Electrical Engineering from Rice University, Houston, and PhD Electrical Engineering from Stanford University. He joined the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Madras as an assistant professor in 1989 and rose to professor and head of the department. He is the founder of the Tenet Group of IIT Madras and founding director of NMS Works Software Limited, Nlog Communications Limited, Nilgiri Networks Limited, and the IIT Madras Rural Technology Business Incubator, IITM RTPI. He is founding director of IIT Mandi from January 2010 to June 2020. He is the chairman of IIT Mandi Catalyst, Prayas Mandi Citizen Forum, and Board of Governors, Jawaharlal Nehru Government Engineering College, Sundarnagar, Himachal Pradesh. He was the vice chairman of State Higher Education Council, Himachal Pradesh from 2014 to 2017. Since July 2020, he is professor emeritus at IIT Mandi. He is interested in education for engineers of the future, design and performance of cloud computing and computer and telecom networks, with emphasis on innovative and low-cost product and technology development for Indian and international industry for applications in rural India. He has led or advised the software system design for product technology development in telecom area. Commercially successful products include Nova Thin Clients, Grammar Teller Rural Automatic Teller Machine, Core DCT Broadband Wireless Local System, Signet Network Management System for Telecom, Blue Bill Telecom Billing Software, and the LAN T Trainer Kit for colleges, which are sold in India and several foreign countries. So indeed, we are very happy to have Professor Gonsalves as our chief guest, and with his experience of establishing a new IIT in a rural area, I think he has a lot of things to share with us. So with this, I would like to welcome Professor Gonsalves on behalf of IIT Goa.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is
Yes, Professor Gonsalves, we can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you for joining.
Yes. So thank you. Hello. Thank you, Professor B.K. Mishra, for the invitation, and also thanks to Dr. Ravi Mittal, who my former colleague, who is with you and who also I think initiated this contact. So if the audio is fine, then we'll go ahead and I'll share the presentations with you.
Yeah, it's fine, Professor. Please go ahead.
Okay. So, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'll be doing today is to talk to you about our experience with IIT Mandi And all the photographs that you see in this presentation are taken by faculty, students, and staff and others of IIT Mandi in our campus, and showing some of the activities here. So in ancient India, if you look at the temples of learning, the people went to the Himalayas to learn, or they sat under a banyan tree on the side banks of a river. If you look at modern India, you find that people often try to learn and gain knowledge and so on in crowded, polluted cities. And of course, nowadays, these cities are COVID infested. So the question that we addressed over the last 10 years is, can this change? Can we go back to the ways of ancient India? So I'll talk to you a bit about how IIT Mandi started, its the context, and then some of the experiments that we've been doing over here over the last 10 years. And I'll give you some outcomes of the activities over here. So back in 2008 and 2009, there were 8 new IITs started. Now they're called the second generation IITs. A 500-acre campus was chosen for IIT Mandi. It was on the Ul River, near a village with a population of 200. Himachal is a very peaceful state. It has a very high human development index, a low population, and it's a largely rural state. The economy here depends mostly on agriculture, tourism, with a little industry, and there's relatively little education, a few pockets in some parts of the state. This shows you the IIT Mandi campus, and I'm not sure if you can see this pointer, but the campus extends along the Ul River over here and goes around the mountain to the North Campus. Can you see the pointer, the mouse pointer?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So the campus earlier, at least part of it, was an animal husbandry farm. So you can see that there were some stables which actually had horses when we came in 2010. So the question is it possible to create a world-class Indian Institute of Technology in such a place, or is it a foolish dream? So some of the challenges that we faced, of course, some were faced by all the new IITs, namely how to recruit and attract good faculty and students, equip the labs, build a campus, and so on and so forth. We faced a number of specific challenges. For instance, unlike some of the other new IITs which are close to large cities, the nearest town to IIT Mandi is Mandi town with a population of just 40,000. And there's a steep mountain road connecting Mandi to our campus. The nearest major city is Chandigarh, which is about 6 to 7 hours by road. One consequence of this remote location means that if you want to have a 1-hour meeting with someone from some other part of the country, it takes up to 2 days when you add in the time of travel. There are other issues that most Indians who come from the plains and the cities are afraid of the mountains because they think the cold winters, landslides, leopards, bears, and other things are out to get them. In this village of 200, there was no ecosystem for faculty and their families, like schools for children, jobs for spouses, medical care for elderly parents, and so on. So, in fact, some people felt that among the 8 IITs, IIT Mandi would always be number 8, would always be the last of these, because we did not believe that. So, the question is, what strategy should we follow? One option was to look at the old IITs and copy them. And of course, that was tempting. But then, having spent many decades in an older IIT, IIT Madras, there are certainly things that are worth copying, but there are things that we wanted to change. So we said, let's look at some global examples of good research universities and see how they have excelled, and then what can we learn from them? So one thing we found is that most of the leading research universities in the world have excelled through achieving excellence by focusing on local and national needs. And in fact, this is something where Indian universities for a long time were focusing on the needs of the West rather than on our local needs, and that's perhaps why we were not among the best globally. So we said, let's change that. Being a small institution, we realized that partnerships are important. We wanted to make a difference to society, so we realized that working across disciplines was important. And finally, while some people felt that our location was a disadvantage, to us, we believe that location is an advantage, and we'll show how we try to take advantage, how to benefit from that, from the location. So the first thing we did is that since the BTech program was starting, or had already started, we said, let's relook at education. And what is it that students need for the future? Can we change the way that BTech education is done? Now, about 10 years ago, India had made a name for itself as a service house for the world, particularly in the area of IT services. Now, if you look at services.
Professor Gonsalves, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Yeah, please.
I think your slides are not changing on our side.
Okay.
So, if you could make it full screen and then share, then I think we'll be able to see the changes.
Okay. Can you see the slide now?
No, it's not visible.
Yeah. Can you see the?
Yeah.
Okay. So now,
Yeah.
can you see the title slide?
Yes.
So it is full screen now. Let me now. Has it moved forward?
No, it's not moving forward.
So if you put it on slideshow mode, then it will work. Yeah, it moved. Yeah, now we see the outline page.
Oh, okay. But now it's not full screen.
And that's okay. If whichever is convenient to you, as it moves.
It moved to the next slide, or is it?
It's on outline.
Oh, okay. Open the PDF.
Yeah, it moved to next slide. We are on Genesis.
Yeah, let me. I have a PDF version which may work better.
Okay.
Okay, can you see the title slide?
Not yet. They come.
Okay, now I've moved to the next slide.
We are not able to see this slide.
Oh, it is not shared. None to share.
Yeah. Much better. It's on slideshow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've gone to the next slide.
Yeah, temples of learning. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So probably I won't go through this again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already covered this.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a picture of the IIT Mandi campus as it was in 2010. The campus extends from on the right over here along the Ul River and then around the mountain to the north. It's about 5 kilometers end to end. And as you can see, at that time, the only inhabitation there was an animal husbandry farm where there was a few stables with horses and pretty much nothing else. You can see over here this mountain road which goes up to Mandi. It climbs about 1,500 feet up over a pass and down to Mandi town on the other side. So look, as I said, looking at the challenges, Mandi was quite far away. Chandigarh was even further away, and the ecosystem was lacking. So coming to our strategy, we decided that we would try to choose a few top research areas of local and national importance, and to try to be the best in the world in those. And taking problems of our own region, which we understand better than others, we could hope to be better than others. Now, looking at the needs of Indian industry, at that time, Indian industry was well known for services, for manufacturing, and so on. Now, one of the things about, say, IT services is that if a company, say, Infosys has 200,000 programmers, then the revenue depends on the number of programmers they have. That if they double the number of programmers, the revenue will double. Now, on the other hand, so the growth is essentially linear. Now, if you look at intellectual property, design, then to take an example, the IP on 4G cell phones, roughly about 15% of the cost of a 4G cell phone goes for the IP. So if, say, India buys 200 million cell phones in a year, that would translate to an IP of about 25,000 crores per year just for the intellectual property of these cell phones. Now, if this intellectual property is created by, say, a few hundred Indian engineers, we get an enormous amount of revenue for relatively little effort. So that is the difference between IP and services. Services, the revenue grows linearly with the effort. IP, it can grow exponentially. So instead of India being a service house for the world, can India become a design house for the world? Now, how do we go about design? I'd just like to take some examples from engineering so that we can see what is it that we need to teach students to make them design engineers. Consider the printing press, that in 1440, Gutenberg, Goldsmith invented the printing press. And this made a revolutionary change in society because anyone could now print books and publish knowledge. Now, if you look at what this Goldsmith used in order to come up with the printing press, one was the idea of metal types. This had been used for hundreds of years by the Chinese. Secondly, he came up with some oil-based inks. Earlier inks were made of water. And the third thing that he used, as you can see down here, was a screw press, which was used by wine makers. The region of Germany where he came from was well known for wine. So over here, the screw is rotated and it presses down on the wine, on the grapes, and converts them to wine. So essentially, he took existing technologies and put them together in a novel way, repurposed them, and came up with the printing press. So this was really the innovation that he did. He did not really invent new technologies. He put existing technologies together in an unusual way. Another example of engineering was transportation in cities. For a long time, horses were used for transportation, and the horses are well suited to the countryside because they need grass or hay as input, and they produce dung, which can then be used as fertilizer. This is the output. Now, when you have horses in a city, the food has to be transported from the countryside, and equally importantly, the horse dung has to be removed from the city. In the 1880s, there were about 50,000 horses in London, and every day 50 wagon loads full of horse dung had to be removed from London city to the countryside. It was an enormous problem. So the question is, what is the alternative? So some engineers came up with this mechanical horse. Essentially, it started out with a man who would walk on the bicycle, on the so-called on this two-wheel device, and of course he could coast downhill. Over a period of time, engineers improved it by adding two pedals onto the front wheel, so that the rider need not walk. Then, since, as you can see, for each rotation of the pedal, the wheel rotates once. So by making the front wheel much larger, you can make the bicycle go further for one rotation of the pedal. So this is the so-called penny farthing. So this has some problems, that when you need a ladder to climb onto it, and if you happen to fall off, then getting back on is a problem. Coupled from the wheel and is connected to the wheel through a chain and gears, so that you can have multiple rotations of the pedal. The number of rotations of the pedal is no longer equal to the number of rotations of the wheel. This is controlled by the gear ratio. Okay? And the modern bicycle has variable speed gears and cable brakes and other very lightweight materials and so on. So we see here in these two examples of engineering that engineering is partly evolutionary. Engineers build on what comes before, and it's also innovative, that engineers take materials or devices intended for one purpose and they repurpose them for something else. So this is what we would like to teach our BTech students. Now, the question is, can innovation be learned? What is innovation? The innovation is often taking existing ideas and putting them to work to benefit society. Now, this is different from creativity, where creativity means coming up with new and original ideas, which may be quite useless. So the question that as educators we need to answer is, can innovation be learned? Now, here there's a very good book that I recommend to all educators, so engineering educators, by Steve Johnson, Where Good Ideas Come From, The Natural History of Innovation. Essentially what Steve Johnson does is he identifies a number of different aspects of innovation. And there's one chapter dedicated to each of these. I'll talk about some of these now. I don't have time to go through all of them. First of all, networking. This networking is not the telecommunication networking, it's more of social networking. Now, if you look at why do people congregate in cities? One of the reasons is there's a law called Kleiber's Law of City Infrastructure, which essentially says that as the population of a city grows, if you raise the population to the power of 0.25, then you get the growth rate of infrastructure. So infrastructure grows much more slowly than the population. For instance, if the population grows by a factor of 100, you only need 3 times the length of roads. You don't need 100 times the length of roads. Now, Morris West came up, studied innovation in various cities, and he found that innovation grows superlinearly, not sublinearly. And so as more people congregating in the city, there's more and more innovation, simply because people meet, unlike people, they are exposed to new ideas, and they think more innovatively because of this. So if we accept West's empirical law of innovation, then if you look at a city like Mandi and Chandigarh, Chandigarh has 20 times the population, but it would have 40 times the innovation. If you go from Chandigarh to Delhi, there's about 10 times the increase in population, but the increase in innovation is about 20x. Okay, so it's super linear. Now, this seems to say that in rural areas we are at a disadvantage because we don't have large numbers of people. Fortunately, communication technology has advanced so rapidly in the last few decades that we can create virtual networks of researchers, of colleagues, of academicians, of students, and so on, and do the networking that earlier was possible only in cities. Now, another aspect of innovation is that, as we saw in Gutenberg's printing press, a goldsmith who had nothing to do with printing came up with a printing press using ideas from winemaking and so on. This is something known as the adjacent possible. Namely, when you come up with a new idea, the new idea combines existing ideas, and at the same time, it cannot combine arbitrary existing ideas. The new ideas need to be close enough to what currently works. To give an example, when the Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago, there was a primordial soup with atoms of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And these could have been combined to form a human being 4.5 billion years ago. However, that did not happen. First, a very simple molecule, formaldehyde, was formed. And then the more complex structures came up, proteins, DNA, and so on. And finally, after 4.4 billion years, a human being emerged. So this is the adjacent possible. It is sort of analogous to supposing we are in a large palace and we are in a room and we want to explore the palace. We can open the doors which are next to us and explore those, and we keep expanding our knowledge, expanding the region of exploration, and go further and further out. So for students, this essentially says that the more you read, the more you study, the more likely you are to be innovative, because you have more doors that are open to you. Now, looking at the way that the human brain works, comes up with ideas. As you know, there are the neurons, and neurons have synapses, and synapses fire electrical signals, and the electrical signals jump across a gap. They jump across a gap from one neuron to another. And of course, since there is a gap, the signal could jump to one neuron, or it could jump to another one or some other neuron, depending on some random chance. So essentially, an idea is a collection of a number of neurons. Now, how do new ideas, and that too, innovative ideas come up? An innovative or new idea comes up when you have some seemingly unrelated ideas stored in neurons in your brain, and they trigger, they fire, and at some time this new idea emerges as a network of these neurons. Now, this may happen at any time of the day or night. In fact, many scientific breakthroughs have happened during dreams at night. One example is the discovery of the ring structure of benzene by the German chemist Shakeel von Stradonitz. In the mid-1800s, he had been working for about 10 years to try to understand the structure of benzene, and one day he was feeling very drowsy, and he dreamt that he saw the mythical serpent Ouroboros, which eats its tail. It's a Greek mythological serpent. And then from that, he got the idea that benzene has a ring structure. And this, of course, revolutionized organic chemistry with all the plastics and other benefits of modern life that we depend on. Given some of these ideas on innovation, we realized that we needed to have a different type of. The traditional BTech curriculum was geared at giving students access to a lot of facts, figures, tools, and so on, and making them expert in those tools in certain areas. So we realized that we needed to expose our students to a wide variety of different types of facts, topics, areas, and get them familiar with making change, putting these together in change in different ways. So for this, what we did is that we decided to have a BTech curriculum that's very much project-based. So we have projects from first year to fourth year. In the first year, students work on reverse engineering. In the second year, they work on new product development. In the third year, they work on technology, the impact of technology on society, and in the fourth year, on the traditional major technical project. Now, some of the unusual things about these projects are, one, is that many of these are team projects, and the teams are formed by students from different disciplines. In fact, in the first 2 years, we randomly assign students to teams so that they have to learn to work with students whom they don't necessarily know or like. In the third and fourth year, they can form their own teams. The projects are often based on real-world problems, and students are encouraged to interact with people in the society and to deliver solutions to the potential users. So these are all things that students would do, which in a traditional curriculum, students learn only after they graduate when they join an industry. So here they learn it during their BTech. To give you some examples, in the second year, we have a design practicum in which all our second year BTech students in their fourth semester work in teams. They have to take a problem of society, and by the end of the semester, they must design and fabricate a working prototype that is demonstrated in an open house. Half the marks for the practicum are given based on the open house, so students make sure that they have something that works in the open house. What you see here is an example of an automated cooker developed by a group of students, where the ingredients are fed in at the top, and then after that, the appropriate ingredients are selected, they are chopped up, they fall into the frying pan down here, the induction cooker is turned on, and after some time, a tasty dish comes out of this. So this, remember, something made by a team of 6 fourth semester BTech students in a period of about 3 months. This is a 3D printer, which was made again in the design practicum in the fourth semester at a cost of about 25,000 rupees. The spanner you see over here was printed by this 3D printer. On the right-hand side is the Spider-Man outfit, which is based on a household vacuum cleaner and some scooter tubes, the scooter tire tubes that are used in this device. So this is the kind of innovation that young second year BTech students are capable of. In all of this, we give them a budget of about 25,000 rupees, so that they have to also be relatively frugal. One of the important decisions that we made is that although IIT Mandi is an elite institution in this remote valley, this remote river valley, that we should work in partnership with the local people. We work for the local society, and we also learn from the village society, from the local society. So our BTech curriculum has a significant fraction of humanities and social science courses, and in the third year we have what's called the interactive socio-technical practicum. Over here, what students do is that they examine the social impact of technology. For instance, the team at the top has looked at the question of dispensing medication in primary health care centers in remote villages. How does the chief medical officer sitting in the zonal hospital in Mandi know what stock of medicines are available in different villages of the district? How does he make sure that the medicines are restocked well in time? So the students here went out, they talked to the doctors in Mandi, they talked to villagers, they talked to the nurses in the villages, they understood the problem, and they came up with some suggestions on how technology could be used to improve this. Another team over here looked at the question of when driving in the mountains, there are accidents which are often caused by drivers getting drowsy due to long hours. So they looked at this problem, they interviewed the bus drivers, they understood the conditions under which they drive, and so on. So there have been, over the last 6 or 7 years, there have been probably about 100 or more such projects that have been done, largely in the local villages around here. This is done by third year BTech students. One of the interesting spin-offs of this ISTP was that some of the faculty over a period of 2 years had studied the needs of the village women in the surrounding villages. And they saw that women over here had a desire to learn more, to develop skills, and to start businesses. So they set up a society called Evoke, Enabling Women of Command, which helps the village women to improve their training and start businesses. This Evoke society in the last 3 years has helped about over a dozen startups incubated by rural women. They've earned over 70 lakhs of rupees in terms of revenue. There's been training in computer skills, spoken English, and other such skills, and quite a number of people have been employed through this society. So this is an example of how our students did a study. The students learned, and as a result of it, we have helped the villagers also to improve. Another example of R&D that has come out for the local region is a botanist at IIT Mandi who got interested in biodiversity of the plants in the Himalayan region. So he has been studying medicinal plants over here, and apart from doing his research, he has also is working with an Evoke incubator to commercialize a herbal tea formulation that was where the properties have been studied scientifically, and this is now being marketed. Another example of R&D for the local region is a team of a civil engineering faculty along with a computer scientist have developed a very low-cost landslide monitoring system. The commercially available systems cost several lakhs of rupees. This costs about 20,000 rupees. This system has been deployed in a number of places in Himachal state, and the faculty have now started a company in order to commercialize this. So these are some examples of the R&D being done for the Himalayan region. Overall, I'd say about 1/3 of the IIT Mandi faculty are involved in research projects for the Himalayan region. About 15% of our project funding, including funding from DST, DBT, and also the Himachal government and so on, are dedicated to the Himalayan region. In this time of the COVID pandemic, our faculty have risen to the challenge, and over 20 project proposals have been submitted for COVID-related R&D, ranging all the way from very practical things like developing face masks to advanced research to understand the nature of the proteins in viruses and so on. Since, as I mentioned, the vision of IIT Mandi was to work for Indian society, to have our research driven by the needs of the Himalayan region and the rest of India. So we have a number of faculty working in the machine learning area. And one of the important problems that they took up was, can we use machine learning to help in screening for cervical cancer cells in women in villages? Traditionally, in order to get screened, the women would have to go to a hospital in a town or city. And working with the company Aindra in Bangalore and with doctors in Kidwai Memorial and PGI Chandigarh, our faculty over a period of about 3 years have developed machine learning algorithm for screening the images of cervical cancer. You can see here the images which have now been enhanced with the machine learning. This has been incorporated in this portable device by Aindra, which was released as a product last year. So the key software in this is developed here at IIT Mandi. One of the points I'd like to emphasize over here is that this research has become useful because right from the beginning, the faculty worked along with students, with the users, namely the doctors in a couple of hospitals and a private company. And so working together with them, they were able to come up with this useful product. Another area in which IIT Mandi is making an impact is in agriculture. if you look at traditionally, farmers relied on their traditional knowledge for agriculture, when to sow, when to apply fertilizer, and so on. And also, what are the prices, where should they sell their produce, and so on. Now, this traditional knowledge, unfortunately, is not good enough today for two reasons. One is, with globalization, the price of, say, a commodity in Himachal might well depend, say, a price of apples in Himachal might well depend on the production of apples in New Zealand or in China. And likewise, the when to the normal pattern of the monsoon and so on is being disrupted by climate change. And so when to sow, when to harvest, what kind of diseases to expect might change dramatically from year to year because of climate change. Now, these are things where tradition doesn't really help. So for this, we have come up with a major project called Farmer Zone, in which we apply machine learning and data science to help farmers make crop management decisions. So we have a lot of data input on the types of seeds, pesticides, and so on, inputs from the farm, inputs on market prices, etc. All of these inputs are taken, and then the farmer is given advice on when to sow, what fertilizers to use, what pesticides to use, where cold storage is available, and when to sell. So in this, one of the reasons I would like to highlight this project is that this is a major national initiative by the Department of Biotechnology. They funded it with about 10 crores. There are many partners within India and from UK and US. And IIT Mandi has been selected as the lead agency in this project. So, although our strategy is to work on problems of the region, it doesn't mean to say that our research is only on problems of the region, or that it is only working on rural technologies. Some of our faculty are working on very advanced global R&D. A couple of years ago, we inaugurated a new clean room. It's a class 10, class 100 clean room, which is on par with the best that's available in anywhere else in India, in any other educational institution. So over here, 10 years ago, we had to make a decision on what kind of research to encourage in IIT Mandi. Some people advised us and said that you're in a remote location, it's difficult to work on experimental research, it's difficult to get equipment, to get it repaired, and so on. So work only on theoretical research. However, we did not believe that. And in fact, Professor Subrata Ray is one of the people who championed the idea that the best research requires a mix of theory and experiment hand in hand. So we decided to invest a significant amount on sophisticated instruments for materials research, which could be used for VLSI, biology, and electronic applications. In fact, we've spent over 100 crores over the last 10 years on sophisticated instruments in these areas. The type of instruments and the type of research that we've encouraged has been driven by the needs of India, the future needs of India, namely materials for solar power, for electrical, for environmental applications, for precision agriculture, and so on. Some of the things that we did over here to try to make this investment useful is, one is to make sure that the sophisticated instruments are not monopolized by a few faculty. So all instruments are available to all researchers on campus through a web-based reservations software. We encourage us PhD students to run the labs. They're given appropriate training, and once they've gone through the training, then they are able to actually run many of the instruments rather than depending on paid technicians. So with this strategy, when we started out in July 2010, we hired the first experimental chemists, and we had a few empty concrete rooms for them to do their work in. And they had to buy the equipment, buy the chemicals, hire PhD students, train the students, and so on. And within a short period of 18 months, the first publication of a new chemical synthesized and developed at IIT Mandi appeared in tetrahedron letters. And this, I think, is a remarkably short time. By 2012, thanks to this rapid progress, our faculty had received a grant of $300,000 from Intel Corporation in the US to develop the next generation VLSI photoresist material. At that time, the state of the art was 22 nanometers. At IIT Mandi, by 2014, our faculty had developed 20 nanometer material. By 2018, they are down to 10 nanometers, which is fairly close to the global state of the art, which is 5 to 7 nanometers. At the same time, this work has led to, as a spin-off, to some fabrication of photoresist and other chemicals for use by SCL in Mohali, and quite a number of the chemicals used by SCL Mohali have been indigenized by the faculty here at IIT Mandi. Another spin-off of the research on advanced materials was when the COVID crisis hit. One of our faculty, a mechanical engineer, had been working on some nanofiber fabrication using solution-blown nanofibers, and he, within a fairly matter of a few weeks, he was able to develop some very low-cost N95 masks, which cost, I think, under 100 rupees. And these are washable and reusable. They can be washed about 12 times and retain their properties. So this is the kind of spin-off research. So I've given you an idea of the sort of R&D being done at IIT Mandi. Some of it is geared towards the needs of the Himalayan region, some to needs of other parts of India, and there is some research which is addressing global challenges. Now, as I mentioned, Himachal is a region without very much industry, and in order for IIT Mandi to develop and deliver technology to Indian society, we need to work closely with industry. So in 2016, we set up IIT Mandi Catalyst, a technology business incubator, to incubate startups and encourage entrepreneurship in this area. Over the past 4 years, Catalyst has received 23 crores of funding and has become the leading technology business incubator in Himachal Pradesh, supporting startups in areas such as travel technology, road safety, healthcare, agriculture, biotechnology, disaster prevention, and so on. And as you can see, some of our companies are doing quite well in terms of employment generation, awards, etc. One of the USPs of the IITs compared to other engineering institutions in India is our residential nature, the residential nature of the campus, where faculty and students live together 7 days a week, and faculty and students are in the labs not only in the daytime but at night and on weekends. Now, for a new IIT, there are two approaches that could be taken. One approach is what I call the Big Bang approach, namely take your 500 acres, design a campus for buildings for, say, 2,500 students, maybe spend 5 years or 6 years constructing the buildings, meanwhile run the campus, the institute in some transit campus, and then after that, move into the buildings. Now, one of the points I'd like to emphasize is that buildings are only a small part of a campus. It is a lot of the infrastructure, the labs, the research culture, the academic culture, the availability of things like vegetable shops, schools, milk supply, the social life, and so on, which makes up the campus and makes a campus, differentiates a campus that is productive and where people are happy from other campuses. So we adopted an incremental approach, namely construct a few buildings, use them, refine our design, construct more buildings, use them, refine them, and so on. And at the same time, we started developing all the soft infrastructure of the campus. So with this, faculty are involved in the entire process right from the beginning and get much more of a sense of ownership and belonging. So to start out, in June 2011, as I mentioned, there was an animal husbandry farm over here with stables and horses. The first step we took was to renovate the existing animal husbandry buildings. By May 2012, the stable had become an electronic classroom with 100 megabit per second connectivity, and we had installed our first sophisticated instrument, an X-ray diffractometer, in this stable where there were horses just a year earlier. We then quickly constructed a few hostels, a mess, and a few academic buildings using some prefab technology. As you can see that the groundbreaking was in April 2012, and by September 2012, the first mess dining hall was ready for occupation, and later in the year, the first student hostel was ready for occupation. So by 2012, our first batch of BTech students shifted into the new campus before the other new IITs had even started construction. We had some setbacks due to various reasons, and so when our plan A did not work out, we had a plan B. So we came across a new technology called light gauge steel frame, which allowed us to construct buildings in about 3 months, ideally, and at a cost maybe about half the cost of the concrete buildings. So we have quite a number of buildings constructed using LGSF, including a hostel block over here, and here there's a renovated hostel block which has the old animal husbandry stone construction and the LGSF construction in front of it. So by 2015, our South Campus was fairly well developed. You can see there's a good playing field surrounded by academic buildings. At that time, all our BTech students shifted to the campus. Many of the PG students and some faculty were in the campus. By January 2020, as you can see, we have our South Campus quite well developed, and the North Campus is also quite well developed with by a narrow neck of IIT land. So it is contiguous, though they are a bit separated. By this time, we have grown to have over close to 1,700 students, out of which the PG population is more than half. We have 125 faculty doing a lot of research. We have close to 1,500 alumni. And one of the things that we are quite proud of is the fact that when we started out, we had very few girls in BTech over here. We were probably the lowest among all IITs. And now we are first among all IITs in terms of the number of girls joining for BTech. As I said, an important part of the campus is not just the buildings, but the activities in the campus. And you can see, apart from academic activities, our faculty, staff, and students are engaged in a lot of other activities. Here we have a gourmet club where residents get together to cook a meal from some different part of the world. We go on hikes and treks up in the snow down to the rivers. And then, of course, there are various sporting activities for both young and old. As a result of this incremental approach to development of the campus, today 98% of our faculty live on campus. There are just 1 or 2 faculty who live in Mandi, primarily because they have very older children who are in high school. Incidentally, we have a school on campus which goes up to 9th standard, and all the children of the campus go to the campus school. So what I've shown you is some of the strategy that we adopted for building IIT Mandi, where we chose to to work on, to orient our academics, both the teaching and the research, towards solving major problems of the Himalayan region and of India. We encourage interdisciplinary work activities. We encourage collaborative work. And now the question is this, has this worked out? Recall that at the beginning, people felt that IIT Mandi would be number 8 among the 8 new IITs. So, on the contrary, when we look after 10 years, we see that IIT Mandi has actually taken national leadership in a few areas. One is that from 2015 onwards, we led the effort to increase the females in IIT BTech, and thanks to our efforts, all IITs have gone from 8% in 2016 to 17% in 2019, and IIT Mandi has gone from 5% to 20%. Among the 8 new IITs, we were the first of the 8 to develop our new campus and start using it in 2012, and to have majority of our students shifted to the campus by 2015. 2 years ago, when MHRD set up the SPARK program for collaboration by all Indian institutions with 25 selected countries, IIT Mandi was chosen as the nodal institution for Germany, which is, of course, one of the leading of these 25 countries. This was because of our successful partnership with German institutions over the previous 8 years. When DBT was looking for an organization to lead its ambitious Farmer Zone project, IIT Mandi, despite its remote location, was chosen for this. So you can see that we have achieved leadership in some areas. There have also been individuals who have achieved, who have made notable achievements. One is Dr. Manu Devadevan, a young assistant professor here, who last year won the Infosys Prize in Humanities. All the other 5 winners of the prize were all senior academicians, either in research labs or in IITs or ISC. So we are very proud that a young assistant professor here has competed successfully. In terms of one of the important aspects of an IIT is, of course, producing graduating students. And over here, you can see that despite the remote location, we started out with 97 students, and we have grown steadily over the years to reach about 1,700 students. Also, as you can see, that starting out with entirely BTech, 97 BTech students, we have now reached, we have about more than half of our students being PG. In the long term, we will grow to about 5,000 students with about 2,000 undergraduate and 3,000 graduate. We currently have about, this number's actually just gone up, it's about 1,450 alumni, including close to 100 PhDs who have graduated from IIT Mandi. And we are, I'd also like to note that last year, this year, we had our first 1 or 2 PhDs being hired by other IITs. I think IIT Indore hired. Nowadays, people, ranking is talked about a lot. Of course, ranking is to be taken with a big pinch of salt. However, I'd just like to highlight that last year in the NIRF 2019, IIT Mandi ranked 20th overall as an engineering institution. Among the 23 IITs, we were number 13, and among the 8 new IITs, we were number 4. In Himachal, we are the number 1 institution, although we're only 10 years old. And overall, last year, among the 8 new IITs, we were number 2. When you look at outreach and inclusivity, which is one of the 5 criteria in the NIRF ranking, IIT Mandi ranks is first among all the 23 IITs. So you can see that far from being number 8 among the 8 new IITs, we are either at the top or somewhere in the middle. We are not at the bottom anywhere. Some of our students have distinguished themselves. For instance, Atar Amir Khan was second in the civil services exams, and he is now doing very well in Jaipur as in the district over there. A BTech student, Nitesh Kumar, has represented India in international para badminton while doing his BTech, and so far he has won 13 medals for India, gold, silver, and bronze in various tournaments. Last year, a team of 3 of our second-year BTech students participated in the ACM National Hackathon, ACMW National Hackathon, and competing with about 190 other teams. Many of them were PG students or senior undergraduates. These second-year students from here won the first prize. So these are some examples of some of the accomplishments of faculty and students in this remote institution situated along this river valley. So, as I've shown that in the first decade, we have taken the lead nationally in a few areas, and we're doing fairly well in many of the aspects that IITs are expected to excel in. In the next decade, we expect that we will become a leader globally. Now, just to summarize the learnings of how we got here, right from the beginning, we decided that we should define some unique aspects for IIT Mandi to differentiate ourselves from other IITs, to give reasons why the best faculty or students should choose IIT Mandi rather than choosing one of the other IITs. And this is true given the large number of IITs. There is choice. So we are in a buyer's market over here. The USPs that we selected were project-based learning and working for society, having an interdisciplinary academic. Over here, we only have broad schools and a strong ethos of working cooperatively and collaboratively, both within the institute and outside and across with other institutes. So this is some of what some of the learnings that I'd like to share from what we've done, and questions I'd be glad to try to answer them or have discussion with the faculty and others at IIT Goa. So thank you for your attention.
So thank you, Professor Gonsalves, for a very interesting talk. You mentioned about innovation in India, also the innovative curriculum that IIT Mandi has designed. Then you talked about Society Connect and how you are also combining regional and global R&D. So it was a very inspiring talk, and I am quite sure that my colleagues here, faculty and staff, would have learned quite a lot from your presentation. We can have 2 questions. So if there is any faculty member or a staff member who wants to ask a question, please raise your hand and then you can unmute your microphone and ask the question. So maybe I will request Professor Mishra to ask his question first.
Well, first of all, we draw a lot of similarity between Mandi and Goa. Truly a scenic atmosphere there and a bucolic setting. And what we see, the way they have gone forward, is the right way to go in that incremental approach that you are talking about. My specific question would be, when you take that kind of approach, what kind of issues that you face with respect to funding, audit, and all such type of things? There will be, did you face any problem with respect to that from administration side?
From the point of view of the ministry, we did not face any problems, and in fact, I'd say because of the approach we took, we were able to design the first set of 9 buildings very quickly and start constructing them. So we actually started spending money before the other new IITs, and so the ministry was quite pleased to give us money because, and in fact, in the first 2-3 years, we actually got more money at the end of the year than was budgeted because we were spending. The one problem that we did face is that since buildings, as and when a building would become ready, we would occupy it. Say an academic building was ready, we'd occupy it, and then there might be a shortage of hostel space. So then students would have to be cramped somewhere. Or we may get some labs and have a shortage of faculty offices, so faculty would have to be have shared offices and so on. So there are these sort of teething problems that are there when we take the incremental approach, because although we might try to plan that we have, say, 1 academic building, 2 hostels, and 3 residences already at the same time, the reality is that construction in India doesn't work in such a planned way, and finally 1 building will be ready before the others, some will get delayed, and so then we have to somehow manage that situation.
Yeah. Anybody else?
So I have one question for Professor Gonsalves. So when a new faculty member who has recently completed his PhD or has spent a couple of years as a postdoc at any institution in India or abroad, when he joins a new IIT which is currently under establishment, what kind of message would you like to give to such faculty members?
Well, the message that I give to them is that they're going to be judged by the same yardstick as faculty in old IITs, and so they have to they're not going to be judged either internally or by their community worldwide in a different way. So they have to measure up to the same yardstick. I also tell them that there are disadvantages of being in a new IIT. There are disadvantages of being in an old IIT. In a new place, you have more freedom in some things. Young faculty get better access to resources. In an old institution, there may be good resources, but they may be monopolized by some senior professor. So there are pros and cons of any place that you join, and you have to make the best of it. But the key point I say that for an IIT faculty, they will be judged by global benchmarks, and particularly, see, what is important for most IIT faculty is not the promotion or the internal evaluation, but the peer recognition of their peers globally. And peers globally are not going to differentiate between someone from a new IIT or an old IIT. They're going to say, how good are you as a researcher or as a teacher? And so you have to measure up to that.
Thank you, Professor Gonsalves. So, among my colleagues, is there anyone else? We can take one more question. Okay, so if not, then let me thank Professor Gonsalves once again on behalf of the entire IIT Goa fraternity for accepting our invitation and sharing with us his experience in teaching and establishing a new IIT over the last 10 years. I personally found it very informative and very inspiring. So thank you once again, Professor Gonsalves.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, and I certainly hope to visit IIT Goa and
Sure.
in person.
Yeah. Anytime. By the way, you may not know, Mr. Shakeel, who is here, we have adopted many norms and procedures of IIT Mandi here. So without your knowledge, of course, but I thought I'll give you credit for that. Yeah, thanks. Beautiful. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah.
So after the very inspiring talk by our chief guest, Professor Gonsalves, we will move to the next item for the day. So the next item is unveiling of the annual report. But before that is done, I would like to mention the very hard work and very excellent outcome that has been possible because of the committee members who were involved in preparing the annual report. So I would like to mention their names. So the committee members included Dr. Ashish Bhateja, Dr. Rishikesh Narayan, Dr. Sabia Hashmi, Dr. Sashidhar Sampati Rao, and Mrs. Nirja Raghavan. In addition to that, we have 4 undergraduate students who have made a lot of contributions to the preparation of the annual report. They are Naveen Mahanwal, Devang Jain, Khushbu Gupta, and Aryan Kadam. I will now share the annual report that has been prepared in the digital format, and I would request Professor Mishra to say a few words and officially declare it available. Let me first share the report. Yeah,
In that case, I can show the cover page that was designed. Oh yeah, here it is. So at IIT Goa, we have this tradition to release the annual report on completion day, and it is with great pleasure I present this before this August gathering, and thank all the committee members for doing a marvelous job, and this annual report is released now, at least in digital form. Thank you very much.
okay. So thank you, Professor Mishra, for unveiling the annual report. Next, we will share with you a video that our student groups prepared, and it was the winning entry in a competition organized by IIT Alumni Council. But before I play the video, let me just share the credits. So the lyrics in this video were prepared by Mr. Ravi Sharma, who is the president of IIT Alumni Council, and he has also been recently appointed chairman of TEMA. The vocals and composition in this video is from Siriju Banerjee. The background score is from our students Harshil Chaudhary and Aryan Kadam. The music production was taken care of by our student Harshil Chaudhary, and the cinematography and editing was done again by one of our students, Devang Jain. This video is titled Jeetenge Hum and is a message during this period of COVID pandemic. So let me please share the video.
और रात है घनेरी, लेकिन है दिल में जज्बा, होगी सुबह सुनहरी। जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे, जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे। आसमां पे कोहरा और रात है घनेरी, लेकिन है दिल में जज्बा, होगी सुबह सुनहरी। खोनी नहीं है हिम्मत और साथ साथ रहना, हर युद्ध जीतना है, भूलेंगे हम कभी ना। जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे, जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे, जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे, जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे। वैश्विक आपदा ने हमको बड़ा सताया, पर जिंदगी को कैसे जीते है ये सिखाया। छोटा ना कोई भी दुनिया में काम होता, इंसान वो बड़ा जो इंसान के काम आता। चाहे हो एक दाना, रखकर ख्याल सबका हर फर्ज है निभाना। अब बात कर है खाना, चाहे हो एक दाना, रखकर ख्याल सबका हर फर्ज है निभाना। जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे, जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे हम जीतेंगे। और सबको गले लगाना, इंसानियत का मजहब है सबसे बड़ा खजाना। है तो साथ मिलके और सबको गले लगाना, इंसानियत का मजहब है सबसे बड़ा खजाना।
So that was a small video that our students had prepared. If I remember correctly, in this competition, IIT Mandi has also been awarded a prize. Okay. So moving on with the items for the day, I would now request our registrar, Mr. Mohammad Shakeel, to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Gonsalves, our Director, Professor Mishra, invited guests, faculty, staff, and students, and all those who are attending this memorable event. I am really honored and privileged to propose a vote of thanks on successful completion of online Foundation Day program. We are honored to have Professor Gonsalves, former founder director, IIT Mandi, and an eminent teacher and researcher as our chief guest. He is not only an eminent teacher and researcher, he is also a very good administrator. I know I worked with him, so I must appreciate his way of working. Sir, we are really grateful for you for accepting this our invitation to be a chief guest of this function. You shared a very interesting presentation on IIT Mandi campus development and engineering innovation. And you rightly said that construction of buildings is not important. Creating or developing activities is really which needs, an institute like IIT. And like you, we are also planning to adopt this incremental approach of construction of building or development of the campus, like this build, use, redefine. So thank you very much, sir, for sharing your views, your experience. Your presentation is really very informative and inspiring. We are also thankful to our annual report team who have completed the difficult task well in time and drafted a beautiful report for the financial year in 2021. So thank you, full team. And this time when offices are not open properly, facilities are not there, informations are not available, but our team has completed the task well in time. We must appreciate their task. I also wish to express my gratitude to all invited guests, faculty, staff, and students who have attended this online program and make it a successful event. See, this vote of thanks will not be completed without appreciating our technical team. I must appreciate and sincerely thank our CITS team, Center for IIT Services team, their professor in charge, Srijit and Dr. Sharad, for organizing this uninterrupted program. Thank you very much. Thank you for being us for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shakeel, for the vote of thanks. Now, as is the tradition, we normally sing the national anthem when we have an in-person Foundation Day celebration, but because it is an online celebration, we will play a recorded video for the national anthem to conclude the event. Let me please share the video.
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाए तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
So that brings us to the end of the event. I would request Professor Mishra to say a few concluding words, and I would like to thank Professor Gonsalves once again on behalf of entire IIT Goa community for being here with us on this day. So, Professor Mishra, please.
Yeah, sir, thank you very much for coordinating. I know, but it's such a tough task. You never know what's going to happen on this online mode, and we were quite apprehensive. Now, this thought of doing this e-convocation, our convocation cannot be held right now, and we are thinking of e-convocation. Now I'm thinking, let's consider physical convocation. That would be better perhaps in December. So I don't know how it is now being done in Mandi, how they are planning. Maybe Professor can tell us, is it your convocation will be online or?
Well, as of now, it's planned for a physical convocation. We normally have a convocation sometime in October, but we'll have to see how the situation evolves.
Yes. This is really difficult times, and Goa number of cases has in fact increased. It was one time 0, now perhaps it's going to touch 500 now. So everywhere across the country, the situation is like that. But I'm very confident that by October, November, we'll have this either some sort of herd immunity or we'll have some vaccine available to us so that will come back to our good old days. Use a blackboard and chalk to get our business done. Yeah, thank you, Professor Gonsalves. Thank you, all my colleagues. Thanks, Shakeel, watching us on YouTube. And thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this function. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, and all the best for IIT Goa Foundation Day.
Thank you, sir, and visit Goa sometime. We always remember whenever I talk about this campus, how this Mandi campus was developed. So that is an example for us. That's a very good experience.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. We can close the event. Let's call it a day, and I hope everyone stays safe and sound wherever they are. Thank you, Professor Gonsalves. Thank you, Mr. Shakeel. Thank you, Professor Mishra. And thanks to my colleagues. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.